Good morning. Welcome to the Sports Desk live on Facebook, also on Comcast Channel 26. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. Our special guest today is Rio Rancho volleyball coach Toby Manzanares. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, good morning, Ed. Thank you for having me this morning. Pleasure.
You know, Coach, we had your match last week against Capital, and I'll tell you, man, that went five matches, five sets, and that went down to the wire. I'll tell you, that was a long. I still live in the Southeast Heights, so a drive home from Rio Rancho was about an hour, and I'll tell you, I was zipped after that. But the enthusiasm from the girls had me. Me and you were sports guys. You mentioned that. When we see amateur athletes doing what they're doing, we get psyched, man. We get jacked up. I sure did. I told you the Capitol bench made enough noise. No fans were allowed, by the way, right? But the Capitol bench made enough noise for 1,000 people.
I totally agree. I mean, that's probably one of the first things I told my team was they're on an emotional high from start to finish. They really are. And, one can only wonder if they have nothing left in the tank after every match because they're so emotionally invested. Yeah, they were loud and they filled the room. You're exactly right. And, we tried to match their enthusiasm, their emotion. Obviously, they're a lot better at it than we are. But on the flip side, we want to play the same, being, 5 points down as we are when we're 5 points ahead. So I like the even keel mentality for my team.
Yeah, and you know what? You guys, you toughed it out. We're going to talk about Cecilia Vance, some of your young players. I thought Ashley Meyer. We talk about point guards in basketball, and I thought Ashley Meyer just had some great assists that night. I thought she passed the ball very well. You're 3-1 now going into tonight's match against your arch rival down the way. And again, anytime you play Cleveland, you're an old Pius guy. So when we played Bernalillo, it was on, man. So when you play Cleveland, it's on in anything that you do against Cleveland. So best of luck tonight. But, Coach, I want to ask you, and this is important. It's in the paper today. Volleyball just returned for APS last night. You've had 4 matches already. But, again, there was times I call it yo-yo emotions. And I've said this to every coach that I've had on, right? We're starting, we're stopping, no, yes, no, yes. What was the feeling from you when you finally got the word that it was going to be a go? I'm sure the girls, and particularly your seniors, you got a couple seniors on your roster. Talk about what it meant to them.
Well, I think it was important that we got a season in, no matter the length of the season. It started at 10 weeks in the fall, then went to 9 weeks, and then they moved it to the spring, and it was going to be 7 weeks, and it ended up being a 5-week season. Preseason, 3-week regular season, and a state tournament season. So, we were excited for those kids because you're right, we were pumping the brakes, since August actually, and it was stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. We had our reservations. We were waiting for decisions to be made, but we tried to stay really positive. And I think that was the message from our administration, from Larry Chavis, our executive athletic director, and Vince Metzger, our athletic director at Rio Rancho High School. It was to be really positive and to make sure that these kids knew that everything that we were doing was preparing them for that green light. And, I think it was the best thing for them, the kids specifically, to be in the gym. We had very few absences whatsoever. They were really interested in wanting to jump in and get back into the fray, but they really wanted to see their friends and their teammates. And I think from a mental health perspective, I think that was the best shot of medicine for them. We were glad to see them. We're hoping they were glad to see us, but they were really excited to see their teammates and their friends.
Coach, I think there's no question they were excited because you've been coaching 23 years at Rio Rancho, 3 state championships. And when you're part of something like that and it's taken away from you, it's very, very hard. I played basketball at Pius and Highland, and I was out there. I didn't miss one practice, right? And I hated missing any games. I think I missed one game my whole career at Highland, one game, and I had to sit out that game because I played varsity. They made me sit out JV. So yes, I'm sure they were very, very happy to see you. But talk about this a little bit, the challenges of working through a pods of 5 right now. Coach Stephen Archibald was my color commentator from the Cueva last Thursday night. Great commentator. He's one of the best. I appreciate you getting him for me. But talk about the challenges about He said this. I said, what are the issues going forward in playing? Trust, timing, all those issues in working pods of 5, right? I saw that last night. I did Highland Del Norte, and Highland, a couple of times miscommunication on balls that were right in someone's area because it hadn't seen live action for a while, right? So talk about the challenges of working through pods of 5 and getting your volleyball team ready.
Well, there's a couple of schools of thought. I mean, do we divide up by position, and do we keep the defensive specialists, the ball control kids in one pod, and do we keep our setters and our outside and middle hitters in another pod? Do we mix them so we have a passer, a setter, and an attacker? We tried to do all those, to tell you the truth, but we had to change every single week because we had to keep those pods consistent for a week because of COVID tracing and COVID protocols through the NMAA and the governor's office. So, it was challenging, really, really challenging. The game is played 6-on-6. It's not played 4v4. Although we do a lot of 4v4 in our practices, it was different. And you're exactly right. The team chemistry, the team unity, everything that we preach and try to get done because we're in a 6v6 type of scenario just doesn't happen because our groups are smaller. And as a result, there are 2 individuals that are missing. So we might have, 4 kids or 3 kids out of the 4 communicating, but you really have, the need to have all those kids hitting on all cylinders when you're playing a full 6-on-6.
Now you've had 3 matches, and you're going into your 4th one tonight against Cleveland. Has some of that come back? Now the muscle memory, the things that we do naturally when we're practicing. Also, some of the girls did play club, I think, but the individual work that you do during the summer, that wasn't there. The getting together and working on your game that all coaches do. You do that during the summer. The football coaches do it. Basketball coaches, track and field, baseball, drill team, cheer team, they do that too. So the individual work and the things that we work on during the summer weren't there. You couldn't do that with your team, right? You couldn't do that. So how far do you think you're behind as far as development, player development, team development? How far do you think you're behind, and are you each game getting back to where you think you should be?
Well, Ed, I think we were afforded one large group practice on Monday, and then we had to play 4 straight matches in a row. I think that holds true for the majority of teams. Some teams didn't have a practice before their first match, and then they had to play 3 or 4 during the course of the first week. So I think those individuals, those teams that might not have kids that have an opportunity to play club a little bit further behind, obviously, because you're right, the summertime is so important for those teams, my team included. We're in a very unique situation where the high school season is right in the middle of club season. So we're having to be really, really flexible because these kids have club practice after a high school practice. If we have a high school practice, they have club tournaments that they're going during the weekends. So we're shuffling our lineups every single night to accommodate both entities. And we knew that coming in. We knew that we'd have to be really flexible. We knew we wanted to give these kids a high school experience that was worth participating in. And that meant having to be really flexible with the clubs in the Albuquerque metro area. And I think we've done a real good job, and I think they've done a good job helping us out to help give these kids the experience that we want them to have.
How big is club volleyball, coach? I'm only guessing because I've heard this from 3 or 4 different coaches about club ball, and a lot of kids did play. Talk a little bit how big is club ball? It's huge, right? Because some kids, they say, have to make a decision whether to play club or play with their high school. So club ball is pretty big. Club ball and basketball is pretty big too. There's a lot of guys that go play club ball too. So that's pretty big in hoops. So talk a little bit about how big club ball is.
Well, I think that basketball is going to face the same issues as volleyball, with AAU going on at the same time as their season. Club volleyball is going on right now. As a matter of fact, I mentioned earlier that I had to shift our lineup. I think this will be the second time I have a full roster, in a full week, and we've had to change and move kids from say a JV to a varsity position. Kids have played multiple positions. Maybe they're playing out of position, and these kids have been really, really resilient. I will say that a club experience is is highly beneficial. It's a blessing and a curse, especially when you have a high school and a club season at the same time, because you're going to be missing those kids. As a matter of fact, I'll be losing 3 starters this weekend for 3 matches because they're going to Denver, Colorado to play in Crossroads. So with that being said, we're leaning on those sub-varsity kids to come in and give us their best effort. And as a result of them, having the club opportunity, we think they can fill in nicely and help us be successful. They're going to contribute, and we have the utmost confidence that they will.
Okay, that's great. Great for you to say that, because it's a different time, right? We've got to cooperate. It's different. You don't play volleyball usually in the spring. You play it in the fall, and again, we're happy that the kids had a season at all. Even when I was out at Del Norte last night, it was funny because the kills that Del Norte and Hyden had, a lot of finesse kills. They weren't like kills with power, but just my Apodaca of Del Norte is putting it right there where no Hornet's at. So right. Some good volleyball that doesn't all have to be power, but the timing and some of the things you could tell they hadn't faced live action for a while. And I'm sure that's some of the things that your Rams are going through and every team is going through, because you mentioned you only had one full practice and then bam, you're right in action, right? And you as a coach know we've got to work on our attacks. We've got to work on defense at the net, serving, the whole thing.
Yeah, I think, as a matter of priority, serve and pass is paramount, regardless of whether or not you're in 4-to-1 pods or you're in 9-to-1 pods. We've been in 5-to-1 pods. So we've seen the entire gamut of pod work. Yesterday, one of our few practices that we'll have over the next couple of weeks, it was a lot of serve and pass, trying to make it game-like, trying to pass to attack, trying to get our setters and our middles to click with one another. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues is middles and setters. It's easier to hit a second, third, fourth tempo ball as an outside hitter on the left and on the right-hand side than it is to hit a 0-1 tempo ball as a middle blocker or middle attacker out of the hands of a setter. So I think that's where the majority of teams are probably out of sorts. But we try to make things game-like I said, and we try to put parameters on the drills that we're going to be doing, and we try to keep the segments of the drills really short so we can keep focus, and our attentiveness can be focused on 4-minute drills instead of 20 minutes of activity.
So you've got to cram a lot into a little, and we'll talk to head coach, Rio Rancho head coach, volleyball coach Toby Manzanares after these messages. We're going to take you to the top 10 highlights of the week.
No, right through the wickets. Did that go? Yes, it did.
Tough serve. Here we go.
That's a great serve ace by Vance. So a kill and then an ace for the 5'9" 8th grader. Vance, another ace. So back-to-back aces by the 8th grader. Another third successive ace got. Yarno back to pass, looking left, looks to his right, throws, caught, touchdown. Touchdown, Western New Mexico. The run maybe coming here. One we've won. Only the keeper to beat, and she does. Rio Rancho's on.
Ferreira, and one run's going to come around to score. Here comes another run, and the Cowboys play 2 more.
delivers. That one's driven to right field over the head of the right fielder. That one's out of the park, a home run. And that's directly into the wind. I mean, I don't know what happened there, but she got around on it. She had hit one like that earlier in the game, but it was foul. Didn't go out, but that one carried and went out of the park.
Man in motion in front of Swords, he'll get it on a power sweep. On the first play of the game, and he might be off to the races, nobody in front, and we're going to have an opening touchdown for the Buffaloes.
That's driven deep to left. That ball is history. A 3-run bomb for Mr. Galen Young, and the Cowboys lead it 3-0.
Midfield by Molina. Now to Martin. Still Martin. They've given her a lot of space, and she buries another upper V. They gave her way too much room, and she put it away. Jet sweep touchdown for Michael Pardonita. This one will take a beautiful Sunday hop for Bailey. He's looking for some space to develop, looking for some blockers. He's going to make a man miss. That's video game stuff right there. To the sideline, to the house, touchdown, Merrill.
Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant Hayes. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Tucson, Arizona.
Hi, I'm Staff Sergeant Greg Martinez. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Hi, I'm Marilena Fernandez. I'm with the New Mexico Army National Guard, and I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
The New Mexico Army National Guard is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school athletics.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with producer Aldini Iwani. Our special guest today, Rio Rancho volleyball coach Toby Manzanares, also a longtime friend of mine. Toby, in the city that we work in or live in, you and I worked together at a community center many moons ago, man. Mesa Verde Community Center, and we had some good times there. We know each other from Pius a long time. I'm really proud of the accomplishments you have as a volleyball coach and as a man. I think the world of you know that. We've known each other a long time, man.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I definitely value our friendship and know that the years that we've gone back and in conversation and in visits has done nothing more than made me a better man. So
man, like I said,
appreciate that.
You know a lot of the guys from 1980, the championship Pius team, and those guys, a lot of those guys, I would have been on that team, but they did just fine without me. But a lot of those guys are still very good friends, man. And we reach out and we talk. But Toby, last Thursday you beat Capital 3-2, and we've got some footage here that we're going to show. And you comment and talk about what we're looking at. You can there it is right there.
All right. Well, it looks like our lefty middle Morgan Roberts serving. Lefties have a little bit different spin on the ball.
She's a great server.
Great server. The eighth grader, Cecilia Vance, just serves bullets from the service line. I knew that Cece was headed to Rio Rancho late, and we're allowed to have eighth graders in our program, but they have to be an impact player. And we learned in a quick hurry that this kid is an impact player. She hits it, she strokes it. Let me tell you, her defense, her back row attacking, her serving. She's also quite an accomplished setter. As a sixth rotation player, as an eighth grader, those are few and far between, but she really has helped our team along. My setter, Ashley Myers, is a sophomore, and she's getting really comfortable leading an offense, and she's getting a lot more comfortable being an offensive setter as well, meaning as a front row player, jumping up, jump setting, jump and dumping, and tipping balls for kills. And that only is going to take the pressure off of our right and our left side attackers.
Talk about Cecilia Vance because of the eighth grader. Again, I think she had 4 straight service aces, and maybe more. And Capital's Alexander Hernandez, the libero for Capital. She dug some of those kills out. I could not believe. She did an amazing job. You might have closed it out a little bit earlier if it hadn't been for Alexander Hernandez. Honest to God, that's how good she was as a libero. But talk about Cecilia Vance a little bit. You mentioned 6 rotation player. Tell us what you mean by that. But tell us about her because she was our player of the game. And I got to laugh because they're so shy, right? They're so shy, but that's the youthful enthusiasm you got to love, right? So talk a little bit about what you mean by 6 rotation player and talk about just her impact on that, at least that match.
Well, Cece Vance is an 8th grader. She attends one of our middle schools. And like I said, our school district allows us to promote 8th graders to a JV or varsity, team, but they've got to be an impact player. And this kid's an impact player. 6 rotation means that she doesn't get subbed. She plays 3 front row, 3 back row rotations. And that means she's very versatile. She serves bullets. She's a fine passer and defender. So in serve receive, she's one of our primary attackers. She is our left side hitter at this point in time, but she also attacks from the back row. So if you're a back row attacker or a 6 rotation outside hitter, you can attack from front row, back row. Back row, the only stipulation is you can't step on the 10-foot line or cross over it. You have to jump from behind the attack line to attack a ball. You can land in front of it. And she hits as hard, I think, from the back row as she does from the front row, which just makes her a real dynamic player. A kid of 14 years old with this type of IQ and these type of abilities really come once in a very long time. So we're pleased to have her, and she is competitive beyond belief. She's a coachable kid. We're glad she's on our side. That's for sure.
You've got some other young players. Jenny Baker's is a freshman. Cecilia, we mentioned Cecilia Vance. Ashley Myers, a sophomore. Sierra Sartorius is a senior. Thank God that, again, she's getting to play this. Kaya Wilson, the sophomore. V. Hills, the junior. Cecilia Gomez, I thought, had some moments. We mentioned Morgan Roberts, the junior, what kind of server she is with that left-handed serve. So you've got some other very good players as well, besides Cecilia Vance, players that are young that you're excited about. I thought Ashley Myers, we mentioned point guards in basketball. I thought Ashley Myers' ball handling and sets, she set up Cecilia Vance pretty, man. Set her up pretty for several kills that game. And you mentioned Cecilia Vance can also attack from the back. And it makes her, again, if it wasn't for Alexander Hernandez, that thing would have been closed down a lot earlier. It really would have been. Alexander Hernandez, how many of those kills out did she dig? Probably about 6 or 7.
Probably so. Credit to Capital High School and their defense for really stepping it up. I've told our kids that we had to hit the ball harder. I mean, goodness. A great defense, as you do well know, wins championships. I mean, goodness. But I thought our kids did a good job of keeping their heads and staying aggressive, attacking. I thought Cece Gomez, or Ceci Gomez, as we call her, attacked the ball really heavy from the left side as well. That's a kid that we had targeted as a middle blocker. But, in a quick hurry, we found out that she's a very formidable left side attacker with a really heavy hand. She thumps the ball. She hits it heavy. She uses the block. So she tools a lot. She attacks down the line. She's able to tip over the block. She's just a huge contributor for us as well. On the right-hand side, Kaya Wilson, sophomore, also outside hitter. We moved her to the right side, and she's really fast twitch. She gets to the ball in a quick hurry. So we feel the right side is a little bit better of a position for her, just because Ashley is able to set what we call a rip set to the right-hand side of the court, which is faster and flatter. And I think that gives Kaya just a lot more opportunity to really pull the trigger in a quick hurry. especially if middle blockers on the opposing team are not quick getting out to the antennas. We're going to be able to really utilize our pin-to-pin opportunities and force the defenses to have to defend for 30 feet. Like you said, sophomore setter, Jenny Baker, freshman libero. We've got a lot of youth, and we've got a lot of good kids coming up from our JV team that have had to come up and fill in on the varsity team over this past week, because of the limitations and the kids that we've had to sit out. So yeah, the future is really bright for Rio Rancho High School volleyball.
Coach, talk a little bit about this, about some of the things you're having to do through a pandemic as far as sanitizing the balls. Everybody's got to wear masks in all sports, football, basketball, cross country, all the sports that are going to be playing, they have to wear masks. Talk a little bit about some of the things players are being asked to adhere to during this pandemic, as far as sanitization, things like that.
Well, once they come into the gym, we use a Dr. Owl app. They check in the parking lot. They answer the questions. They put the pod number they're in or the team number they're on. They get access granted with a green check mark. If they get access denied, maybe they answered something incorrectly, they've got to call me right away. And then I walk them through because it uploads to my laptop. Then I can kind of see, what the deal is. Once they come in, we temperature every kid every day. If a kid's over the 100.3, well, we send them home, and they probably shouldn't come into the facility in the first place. But more times than not, if they answer the questions and the questions are answered correctly and honestly, then we know that they're good to come in. Yes, masks are mandatory for coaches and players 100% of the time. Now, it's tough playing in masks for some of these kids, but they've been in masks for a long time. So there's really no excuse for them not to be able to wear their masks. They tend to come over the top of the nose, and when we remind them, please remember, we remind. It's just our protocol. And we've told these kids from day one, we're not going to be disqualified from competition because of the things that we can control. And that's mask wearing, and that's, keeping our distance, and that's sanitizing our equipment, and that's washing our hands and making sure that, we're as mindful as we possibly can be. But that's our daily world right now. And, as a result, it takes some personal responsibility from all of us to make this thing happen.
One more question, Toby, and we got about a minute left. You've been around the game for 35 years, former coach at Socorro, former coach at St. Pius, former, current coach at Rio Rancho. What's changed in the 35 years with volleyball as far as the game itself? There's changes in basketball, baseball, football, the way the game is played. What's the biggest change that you've seen?
Yeah, I've got to shout out to Moriarty High School too, because there was a quick stop there for a couple of years.
That's right. Yeah.
I think the game has just become more progressive. It's faster. The athletes are faster and bigger, and they cover more court. So if you're seeing 6 rotation players, the court really shrinks. And if you got bigger kids, then there's more length to cover the area of the court. We tell our kids, if we're following rules, you shouldn't have to defend in an area larger than 10 by 10, really. Rules are very important, but the game's gotten faster and it's gotten more athletic. And the advent of club and club opportunities allows these kids to continue to hone their craft. But we're always preaching, hey, be a dual sport athlete, at least. Go run track and field. Go be a better athlete. Give your body some rest. Let's not suffer from the overuse of a single sport. So with that in mind, we really want to make sure that our kids come into the summer and back into the fall, having an opportunity to do something else. But I think the game being really progressive, faster, more athletic is the big change, Ed.
Toby Manzanares, Rio Rancho volleyball head coach. Thanks so much for being our guest.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate the work you do for
we'll
sports
do it again,
and athletics.
Man. Hey,
all right.
One more question. You ready for Cleveland, baby? You ready?
Hey, Cleveland tonight. It's a rivalry like another.
I know you're ready. I just had to put that in there because anytime it's a rivalry game, you think about that game for a long time, man. You really do. I know I used to. Anyway, for producer Alden Iwani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next Tuesday on the Sports Desk. Toby, great job.